Alright, we're continuing the conversation from the previous video. I've met great cops in other jurisdictions. I've met Michigander cops. I've met Virginian cops. I've met feds. Honestly, I don't like feds. I think everyone that's a fed, and by fed I mean in the bureau, I think they're weird. I think they're very strange people. I've met one bureau agent that I genuinely liked, and that's because she was a female. So, I don't know. I think that cops in New York City and the surrounding areas are just different. I genuinely, of course I'm biased, but I genuinely think that cops in New York City are the best in the world. Does that mean they're perfect? Absolutely not. Do they make mistakes? Of course they do. Should they be held accountable for their mistakes? Yes, absolutely. Does that mean that all cops, or even more specifically, all NYPD cops are bad? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And a number of people have said, and they're not wrong in a vacuum, that you can't have bad apples in police work. Sure. In a vacuum? Absolutely. But that's just not possible. It's not possible. If we could stop if we could keep it so that there was not even a single bad apple in any police department, then we would know, who criminals are before they're even criminals. I'm pretty sure there's a movie about that. What's that movie called again? Hold on, I gotta look. Minority Report. That's the one. If we could Minority Report that shit, sure. No bad apples anywhere. Period. The end. It's just not realistic. It's just not possible. I mean, when you speak highly of someone, and say, when you want to say something like they're the best kind of human being, they're honorable, they're trustworthy, you call them a saint, right? You call them a saint. I mean, sure, we don't have any living saints necessarily, at least not to my estimation, but even where that comes from, it comes from the church. Do you think there isn't a single bad apple in the church? Hello? Like, no matter what profession you look at, there are going to be bad apples. Does it weigh more when there's a bad apple in the police department? Absolutely, 100%. But is it possible to weed out every single bad apple? Absolutely not. It's just not possible. I mean, doctors are held to very high professional standards. Lawyers are held to very high professional standards. Are they all good? Nope. Not even close. Not even close. And I'm not talking about, some doctors have bad bedside manner, which is true. A lot of them do. But that's not even what I'm talking about. And you know it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Are there dirty fugazi doctors? Fuck yeah. Are there dirty fugazi lawyers? Fuck yeah. Not even a question. That should be synonymous. I don't know what to tell you. It's just not possible. Would it be nice? Absolutely. This is one thing that I don't think a lot of people realize is a good cop doesn't want this shit to happen, doesn't want an unarmed black man to die in police custody or to die without just cause, because it makes everybody look bad. It makes everybody look bad, because the irony of it all is we're being painted with the same brush that is being alleged that we're painting others with. Does that make sense? Look at these protests. I'll even go so far as to say 95% of these protesters, while they might be sour, rightly so, 95% of these protesters are doing it properly. They're obeying the rules, obeying the laws, they're not hurting anyone, they're doing their thing, fine. But there are a few, and I'm only attributing the looting and the rioting to a few. Because it is not even close to all of them. It is the overwhelming minority of people that are looting and rioting. Let's be clear. But that small percentage of people who are doing the looting and rioting are making the protesters, by and large, look bad. Because it's looting and rioting is not about honoring George Floyd's memory. It's about looting and rioting. Protesting peacefully, screaming, yelling, cursing, fine. Honoring George Floyd's memory. Absolutely the right way to go about it. But the minority of quote-unquote protesters are the rioters and the looters. And they, quite frankly, are taking away from the message that is trying to be conveyed by the peaceful protesters. Rude, but still peaceful protesters. So the small minority, 5%, maybe even less than that, honestly, of looters and rioters dishonoring George Floyd's memory by doing so. If you look at the news, you can see it. They are drowning out the peaceful protesters who are trying to honor George Floyd and fight for justice on his behalf. That's not that different, believe it or not, from police departments. Because let's be real. The bad cops that are out there, and there are bad cops out there, we haven't identified all of them. It's just not possible. They're making all of us look bad. All of us. So we have the same guilt by association as the protesters and the rioters. We have the same guilt by association that people are saying we attribute to others. Maybe not to the same degree, but it's in the same vein. I don't know what it's like to live as a black man, or woman for that matter, except when I moonlight. Just kidding. I can't imagine it's easy. I've seen how difficult it is, to an extent. I will never be in a black person's shoes, so I can't know. I can really only empathize to a very small extent. What I want to see are a lot more black cops, because black cops have a unique perspective. They know what it's like to live as a black person, and they know what it's like to be a police officer. Let's be real. Black police officers probably have one of the hardest jobs in the world. I know black police officers that have been called Uncle Tom more times than you care to think about. And that's fucked up. Uncle Tom. For those of you who are not American or don't know this about American history, Uncle Tom is what slaves used to call, and well, an extension even now, because clearly it's still used now, but Uncle Tom is like the super subservient slave to his white owner. And it goes all the way back to the Civil War, pre-Civil War. If you watch the movie Django Unchained, Sam Jackson is Uncle Tom. He's a slave, but he's so subservient to his white master. That's what Uncle Tom is, in a nutshell. Sam Jackson in Django Unchained, which is a great movie, by the way. I'm Jewish, so I loved Inglourious Bastards because it's like Jewish porn. Django is like African American porn. It's awesome. It feels good to watch both of those movies, quite frankly. Anyway, I know several black cops that have been called Uncle Tom more times than you care to think about. And that's fucked up. Because someone is trying to police and, enforce the law. I mean, Uncle Tom that's rough. That's I don't even know what else you could compare it to. Um, it's like some sort of racial Stockholm syndrome thing. But to call a black cock, to call a black cop Uncle Tom is disgusting. So, all this to say, I think that black cops have a unique perspective, albeit a very difficult position, and I think that we need more of them. Um, I think we need better community policing standards. I've had this conversation with cops, with civilians, with hyper liberal friends of mine. Um, for the longest time, and still in existence in certain jurisdictions, police work has been a very numbers based, call it a game. It's a number game. Um, that has more or less ceased in New York City. It was the MO for New York City for pretty much the entirety of the Bloomberg administration, all 12 years. Did it clean up the streets? Yes. Did it, in hindsight, violate some constitutional rights? Yeah, it may very well have. So, numbers games are dangerous and are not good, but there are a number of jurisdictions that still play the numbers game. We want more arrests, we want more fines, we want this. A lot of it is revenue. Small towns need revenue, and they get a lot of revenue from their police departments. This isn't an opinion. This is fact. You can look it up. Small towns derive a lot of their revenue from tickets, from court fees, prosecution fees, bail fees, etc. And fines. There's a lot of money for small towns in that. So that's why there exists a numbers game in a lot of other places still. And that's also why it's dangerous. Because, it used to be in New York City, if you didn't meet your arrest or ticket quota, you got transferred to a much more dangerous command in a different part of the city. Old-time cops will tell you that that is true. That is, at least on paper, not the case now. CompStat is not what it once was, thankfully. The numbers game is far less of an issue in New York City. It still does exist. There was, I'm sure most people are familiar with the term stop and frisk. For us, it's UF 250. No one does 250s anymore. No one does stop and frisks anymore because the city shut down the numbers game. Because it was, for a few years under Mayor Bloomberg, it was all about the 250s. It was all about the stop and frisks. Now, did you get a lot of weapons off the street with stop and frisks? Yes, absolutely. Is stop and frisk a useful policing tool? Yes, with the caveat that you can't go fucking crazy and just stop everyone because of their skin color, which is precisely what happened. So, I mean, I am of course biased, but I would sooner blame the departments, the bosses, the supervisors, the politicians that put all of these laws and guidelines in place more than I would blame cops, with the exception of Chauvin, because ain't nobody told you to put your fucking knee on someone's neck. I have defensive tactics refreshers every year, and have had one every year since I've been doing what I'm doing. never ever was taught, in fact, was told not to go near someone's head or neck. Certainly wasn't taught to put my knee on someone's neck. Now, if someone is struggling, is it common to put your knee on someone's back so they can't get up? Yes. But their back is not their neck. I mean, Mr. Floyd's carotid artery was compressed to the point where he passed out and later died. You have 2 carotid arteries, but they're pretty fucking important. They're pretty fucking important. They supply blood and oxygen to and from your brain. Period. The end. So, I hope that fucker goes to prison, if only for the fact that he killed someone, he murdered someone, and he makes cops look bad. Any good cop should be quick to, or happy even, to throw Chauvin under the bus and say he fucked up, he was wrong, he should go to prison. Because he should. And it will give a small modicum of credibility to any police officer that says that, because the public thinks that we will back each other no matter what happens. And in a lot of jurisdictions, that's true. That needs to stop. The blue wall of silence, as it's sometimes referred to, is problematic. That is institutionalized everywhere. Because if you talk, if you tell IAB or CCRB or whatever, you're a rat. You're not a rat if you're getting a dirty fucking cop off the job. You're doing the right thing. You're doing what you signed up for. You're trying to keep people safe. And if dirty cops are walking around with guns and shields, you're not safe, the public isn't safe, and if the public isn't safe, then, again, you're not safe. Every person that I've arrested, I have tried to treat with respect as though they're, another human being. Because my philosophy and my hope is that if I'm getting the shit kicked out of me on the street and someone I've arrested sees me getting my ass handed to me, they will come and help me. That's right. I treat everyone with the hope that if they see me getting the shit kicked out of me, they will help me, not join in. And short of dealing with a fucking EDP or a murderer, that's how I'm going to act. Continue to act. Again, I have the extreme fortune of working with or prosecuting or investigating white-collar criminals. So it's different. I'm not working narcotics. I'm not working gang. So no, not everyone can do that. But that's my philosophy, and that's how I try to operate.